All right, everyone. So we've got another video from Swagkage, and this one is pretty recent, called Minato versus Shisui. Who would win? Now, if I'm being honest, I don't think I've ever thought of even putting Minato against Shisui in the first place. But the problem that I have with this versus battle is that we don't really know much about Shisui to, or at least I don't know much about him enough to at least come to a decision as to who would win between him and Minato. I mean, we have a lot of feats from Minato, but we don't really have a lot of feats from Shisui. We know he was known as Shisui the Teleporter, but we don't really know much about his actual combat capability. I mean, we know that he was working with Itachi and he was someone Itachi respected. But yeah, I mean, we've never really seen him, or we don't really have any feats for him, excuse me, in order to determine just where he would rank in terms of power. So this one should be interesting. I mean, we do have some, like I said, we have some statements from certain characters, like for example, like I said, him being known as Shisui the Teleporter, so him being known that would lead people to believe that, oh well, maybe he was known for being fast, so I guess that's probably why they're pitting him against Minato, because Minato is also known for using Flying Raijin, which does give someone a pretty significant advantage in battle. So let's go ahead and watch this video. Let me just check the volume real quick, and I hope the audio on my microphone is actually pretty good. I've been messing around with the settings, so hopefully this time, because I did get that complaint in one of my videos where people said that, or someone said that, you know, the volume on my microphone was a little bit low, so I'm hoping that it's a lot better now. So let me know in the comments if it's better than it was before. So let's go ahead and watch this video.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Swagkage here, and today, once again, brought my pal 6 with me. You can introduce yourself again if you want.
Hello, we're gonna go over Minato versus Shisui.
I mean,
So,
pretty self-explanatory.
people
So
mash them up all the time, right? And
they do.
I get comments like every day. So who would win, Minato versus Shisui? People tweet it at me all the time, and I see other people getting asked this all the time. It's just like a really popular matchup. Let's start with like all the positive stuff for him. Now, before we go any further, I'd just like to take a quick break on behalf of today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Most of you have probably at least already heard
I
the
didn't
name by
know
now, since
Raid
it's
was still
been around
sponsoring
at the
people.
time of this video's release 3.5 years and is still going strong. For those of you who don't already know, Raid's a turn-based RPG that takes place in a dark fantasy setting and is available for download on PC and mobile platforms. It's completely free to play, and at least in my opinion, is one of the best-looking mobile games on the market right now. I first started playing it last October and have been actively engaged.
You know, to this day, I don't think I've ever really played Raid Shadow Legends. I'm thinking of picking it up because
generally tend to like fantasy aesthetic.
I mean, I keep seeing it keeps being recommended. I mean, you can't really go anywhere on the internet, especially YouTube, without hearing about Raid Shadow Legends. So I'm starting to think that, you know, maybe I should just bite the bullet and, you know, try the game, because I don't know. I mean, you keep seeing it everywhere, and I guess it's got to be good if people are okay sponsoring them, or not sponsoring them, but they're okay promoting it, this game. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll give it a try. We'll see.
And turn-based combat.
You know what? If you have played Raid Shadow Legends, let me know in the comments. Is it like a good game? Is it even worth checking out? Or
when I say that there is like always stuff to do in the game, there are like a billion different characters to unlock and level up, and it's constantly being updated with new content and features. As a matter of fact, a recent boss that just got added to the game is one of the craziest I've ever played against, like not just in Raid, but in any game period. It's this 6-headed Hydra where all of the different heads are like 6 unique boss battles, but you have to fight all of them together at the same time. All the heads have different names and a different gimmick, like the head of Blight will try to poison you and steal your health. The head of Mischief will take all the buffs that your support characters apply to your team and then apply them to the rest of the Hydra heads. The head of Wrath will just melt through your whole party with ridiculous damage, and that's without even mentioning the other 3, the head of Torment, the head of Suffering, and the head of Decay. There's also a ton happening in Raid this month, like the addition of a bunch of new champions, and a brand new Faction Wars crypt for one of my favorite factions, the Shadowkin. It's going to be amazing, and I can't wait for the crypt to open up so I can dive dive in and see what it's all about. Honestly, now's as good a time to get started with the game as any, and if you use my link in the description or scan my QR code on the screen, you'll get a free starter pack worth about $30 to kickstart your game. That includes a free champion named Terrell, 200k silver, an energy refill, an XP boost, and an ancient shard so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here in your gift box, but these rewards will only be available for the next 30 days and only to new players. So to any
well, by now I
newcomers,
guess it's
wish you the
gone
best of luck,
since
and thanks again
this
to
video
Raid
was
Shadow
posted
Legends for
about a month
sponsoring
ago,
this
so
video.
Now we can't use the manga because
He doesn't do
Can't use-
anything.
yeah, he doesn't do
he's
anything.
totally feetless in the manga. He basically doesn't exist. He's like a lore entity, if anything, right? Like people
Yeah.
talk about him and the things that he did, but it's all very vague.
Yeah, Shisui's maximum participation in the manga is literally just giving his eye to Itachi. Other than that, like from at least the original manga itself, we get like he ran into Al some time ago during like the Third War, and they fought, like he fought his platoon and he like scared Al a bit. And I think that's why people ask about Shisui a lot, is because they're looking for information.
And well, the other thing too is there are a lot of different versions of what happened to him. Like they're not all congruent with each other, right? The anime, Storm Revolution, and the novel all tell a different version of the same story. Most of it is pretty similar, but the fight with Danzo is always like
Different.
wildly different. Like if we use anime filler for this matchup, then like Minato is way stronger and Shisui is way weaker. So this is just like
Yeah,
a
this-
horrible stomp.
Because in the anime, the confrontation with Danzo just goes like Shisui genjutsu's Danzo because he's like doing some fishy shit, and then Danzo uses Izanagi to get out of the genjutsu, and he like knees Shisui in the chin, and Shisui like flies up in the air and he just rips his eye out. It gets a
Yeah, this is the thing. I don't. This is why I don't like anime filler, cause like it does shit like this, and it also gives people like a bad idea for what characters can do. This is why I always recommend to people, look, just I get that you may not be a reader, but I would recommend just reading the manga, because the manga is the most. Excuse me, 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. But the manga is the most accurate source for the story. Like, just read the manga, okay? The anime sometimes adds scenes that changes the context of what's actually happening, you know? Just, it's, again, I love the anime, I do, but the filler is the thing that I think a lot of people have a problem with when it comes to the Naruto series. This being like a prime example. So like Shisui, again, they said it before, like in the manga he's basically feetless, but he is like sort of talked about like he's this like kind of a very well-known member of the Uchiha clan, and this scene doesn't really make him look good. Like it doesn't really do him justice. And then of course you've got the Storm Revolution, which I'm pretty sure they're going to bring up because they did mention it. That in Storm Revolution he does look a lot better. The only reason why Danzo was able to take Shisui's eye is because he used Izanagi, so he was able to catch him off guard and rip off his eye. And then he was like, Shisui was able to fight him off, but just barely. But in my opinion, that makes him look a lot better. But even then, like I don't count anything that happens in filler or in games as canon. Like for me, it's the manga. If it's not in the manga, as far as I'm concerned, it never happened. All right. So, and I know that's a little bit difficult now with, and I'm pretty sure I already talked about this in a previous video, but I like that's one of the problems with the I guess you could say the Boruto story now, is that you've got the manga and the anime, so you've got kind of a Dragon Ball Super situation where you've got the manga, which has its own continuity, and then the anime, which has also its own continuity. And while they are similar, they also have some things that are just different from each other, and it makes it difficult to say like, how, okay, it makes it difficult to like sort of debate with people, because some people will use examples from the anime or some people will use examples from the manga, and it just makes it difficult because like I said, the anime has its own continuity, so it kind of has its own, how do I say this? It's kind of in its own world, but then you've got the manga, which has its own continuity, and so that forms its own arguments if you're using the manga. So again, it's a little bit difficult. So yeah, it sucks. It sucks. Like it's just this is one of the reasons why I usually don't like getting into debates about what's canon, because like you always have to wonder, okay, well, where exactly are you getting your information from? Are you just getting it from the manga, or are you using anime only scenes to help like back up your arguments? Because a lot of these anime only scenes that you're talking about weren't in the manga, so yeah, I don't know if you should really count that. Sorry, I know I went on a bit of a tangent.
Bit better in the game. Yeah, so they like fight each other in the game, like back and forth for a while, and they're like kind of tired at the end. And you can maybe even imply, like in the game, Shisui's holding back on Danzo because he doesn't bring out the MS or the Susanoo during the fight, but he still fights him to like fatigue, at least in his 3 Tomo state. So it doesn't really matter. Just like in all of the renditions, the fight with Danzo is the end for him.
Like I was saying, the best version of the fight for him is the novel, because Shisui doesn't actually fight Danzo head on there. He gets poisoned, and it's poisoned from one of the members of the Aburame clan. And one of the secondary effects of this poison is paralysis, so he's totally unable to move. That's good for him, because that tells us he's not as weak as like pre-Sharingan Danzo, which would just be horrible for him. In that case, Shisui would get obliterated by Minato.
Yeah, he wouldn't stand a chance.
Not only would he get obliterated by Minato, he'd get obliterated by people like Sekitachi, MS Sasuke. He'd get obliterated by later Danzo for sure.
Oh yeah, easily. I don't think that this interpretation is necessarily inconsistent, and use it to construct a sort of picture of what Shisui might have looked like at full power. I think the most impressive thing is there's this plan that the Uchiha clan makes where they want to go kidnap Hiruzen, and the person that they want to have like break into the Hokage manor, which makes this even more impressive because I imagine that it would be guarded by a bunch of other ninja, and just go into Hiruzen's office and kidnap him and take him hostage. The book specifically mentions they planned on using Shisui's body flicker to do this, which means that the Uchiha clan at least thinks he's fast enough to capture the third Hokage.
Even when Danzo gets the Sharingan, you can sort of imply he doesn't think he's at Hiruzen's level. So definitely like pre-Sharingan Danzo should not be at Hiruzen's level, so Shisui shouldn't be losing to someone of that tier.
If you want to go this route, you have to assume then that Shisui is above Danzo, which again, like we said, for the purposes of this video is fine. Danzo actually says this himself, that Itachi and Shisui are just like the best, strongest members of the Uchiha clan.
So the context behind it as well is that they're saying that if they win Shisui and Itachi over, like in this supposedly upcoming war with the Uchiha clan, that they'll just win the war because they'll have the 2 strongest Uchiha on their side.
It's up to you whether or not you agree with the implication that Fugaku was maybe fit to be Hokage, definitely at least Kage level. Knowing that, it's fair to reason then that maybe it actually does make sense if Shisui is stronger than him, that he would be fast enough to do what they were going to need him to do for this plan, where they were going to have him capture Hiruzen.
And we're just talking about like in terms of a combatant, right? Obviously, because like nothing implies, at least from what we've mentioned, that Shisui should be able to like punch Hiruzen in his stomach and like knock him out or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's definitely got the speed to be up there, and then he's just like an Uchiha with crazy genjutsu. So like overall, he should just be like around that tier, like upper Sani, something like that.
Itachi, throughout both of the novels, he thinks that Shisui is better than him, looks up to him. wants to be as strong as him. This is also implied in the game pretty much right before Shisui dies. The narrative does seem to imply
Well, I mean,
that Shisui is like,
he may have been
around,
stronger than
this
Itachi at that
level
point,
power.
but
It's fairly nebulous, but I feel like understanding this, if I assume that Shisui is actually this strong based on all these things, I have a pretty good idea of who he could and couldn't beat.
And it's not Minato.
Yeah, exactly.
So the main reason why is, like we just discussed, Shisui's like upper signing, like around that tier, right? And then we get to Jiraiya, and Jiraiya, when he's talking to Tsunade, this is like during the search for Tsunade arc, is like the first time they find Tsunade. He's telling Tsunade that basically it's like a whole double spread of Jiraiya just jerking off Minato. He's literally like, yeah, Minato's capacity as Shinobi is just unmatched. Everybody compels in comparison to Minato, just jerking him off. So it's like Jiraiya, who in base is like around Orochimaru and Hiruzen's level, he's got Sage mode, and
which allowed him to compete with someone who had the Rinnegan.
To Minato. So right there, that's just blatant like ABC. Minato is way stronger than someone like Shisui.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a whole lot of other ways that you can illustrate this too, right? Like if you want to assume that Jiraiya is just like biased or whatever, he doesn't actually know what he's talking about. Most people, I think, agree that Sage Naruto was stronger than Sage Jiraiya.
Absolutely,
and,
yeah.
Pain was stronger than Sage Naruto was.
Yeah, because Naruto again, he lost that fight
to Minato in his mind when Minato seals the Nine Tails back up. Minato looks at Pain and he's like, so this guy is really strong, but this Madara guy is like way stronger than him, and you're gonna have to like master the Nine Tails if you want to beat that guy. And this guy that Minato's talking about isn't somebody that gave him any trouble, by the way, mind you. Minato, like, what he did to Obito was
yeah, he basically destroyed him. I mean, it is insane. Like when you think about it, it's crazy.
Filthy. It was like a one and done, one tap, and then Obito just ran away. He got hit by one Rasengan and then just gave up.
You want to know what's crazy? Like he's talking about Obito, like this version of Obito, obviously because this is the one he fought. And Obito obviously got a lot stronger as time went on. So think about it like this. So Naruto, who was stronger than Jiraiya, fought Pain. Pain wins, technically, because if the Nine Tails didn't interfere, Naruto, yeah, like I said, he basically lost that fight. And keep in mind, he had prior knowledge of Pain's capabilities, his abilities, and his weaknesses. And Pain didn't have any of that on Naruto. Like he didn't know exactly how Sage Mode works. He was learning about it as the fight was going on. Like as the fight was going on, he realized, oh, there's a time limit. And you know that absorbing natural energy is dangerous because if you absorb too much of it, then, well, you guys know what happened. You get turned into a frog statue. And he learned all of this as the fight was happening. So he didn't have any knowledge on Naruto, and he still came away the victor at the end. Like Naruto still was not able to take him down. And that is insane. And yet Minato looked at that and said, yeah, but this guy, Obito, that I fought, who he thought was Madara, was a lot stronger. And even though, yeah, Minato, I would make the argument that Minato only technically won because he had Flying Raijin. If he didn't have that, I don't think he would have won. I mean, maybe if he pulled out Sage Mode, because if he pulled out Sage Mode, I think he would have been able to take him down easy. But yeah, I still don't buy this shit Minato says of, oh, he's not good at using Senjutsu. Bullshit. Okay, if you can become a perfect sage, you're good at using Senjutsu. Don't give me that, oh, I'm not good at Senjutsu crap. And then he was talking about this version of Obito. That means this version of Obito, a younger Obito who's like I think he's, if I remember correctly, he's like a teenager at this point. Yeah, I think he's like a teenager. He's like maybe 15, 16, or maybe late teens, like 18, 19, maybe. I don't exactly remember. I'm sorry. Forgive me for that. And yet this version of Obito, in Minato's eyes, is stronger than Pain. Like he tells Naruto, you need to master the power of the Nine Tails if you want to take this guy on. And Naruto went on to fight a stronger version of Obito, who planted the Rinnegan in his left eye. So he has the power from the Rinnegan. And again, like that should tell you just how strong Obito actually is. And yeah, I mean, I think he was like so strong. I think that even Kishimoto, he like had to come up with like some kind of convenient excuses as to why Obito doesn't, like, let's say he used any of the Rinnegan's abilities, or he doesn't use Kami. Well, actually, yeah, he does. And like, it was very lucky for them that Kakashi was there and he had the one ability that allowed them to counter him. Like if Kakashi wasn't there and he had Obito's other eye, which connects, you know, the dimension, the Kami dimension, to both of them, which gave them a severe advantage, Obito technically won that fight. So again, like, they got lucky. The only reason why Obito keeps losing is because like his opponents keep getting lucky. You know, it was lucky for Minato, he knew Flying Raijin, and that Obito, I don't know why he kind of forgot that Minato had Flying Raijin. I mean, I still wonder why, like, didn't he realize when he threw the knife and that the knife would go through him and he would just teleport back to him? And I don't know, that just always seemed a little bit weird to me. But yeah, so anyway, sorry, I know I went on a bit of a tangent, sorry about that, so let's go ahead and continue.
Obito just ran away. He got hit by one Rasengan and then just gave up.
Yeah.
Like, the whole reason Obito went to the village was in order to get the Nine Tails and start controlling it. So you'd imagine that he'd be doing everything in his power to make sure that he doesn't lose the Nine Tails. And like, the first thing Minato does after touching him is just
sever his connection to the Nine Tails.
The Nine Tails from his control, right?
Yeah.
It's like really bad. So even if Shisui is like at or somewhat above Hiruzen in terms of strength, like, there are so many more pegs on this totem pole that are all above him that it's like,
yeah, it's literally just saying like Minato has a much higher quality of scaling over Hiruzen than Shisui can ever dream of, right? And like, keep in mind, we're being generous to Shisui here, like putting him this high, just like using only novel things, like assuming the novel is like the canon way to interpret everything. So it's not like, you know, it's not like this is like concrete or anything. Minato is just,
I will say this in terms of the whole discussion about the novels being canon. It is a little bit difficult because while it is true that the novels, some of them do line up with the story, some of them don't really line up with what happens in the manga. Like, I can give you an example. Again, I know I'm bringing Boruto into this, but it's honestly the only example I can think of off the top of my head. But in one of the Boruto novels, it's I think it's the Sasuke novel, the one where he basically takes over as the leader of this sort of new Team 7, because I think Konohamaru got injured, if I remember correctly. What ends up happening in the novel is that it explains that Sarada at some point managed to awaken her three Tomoe Sharingan. Now, that book, in my opinion, lines up well with the manga, but not the Boruto anime. Because in the anime does things where they adapt the novels. Here's the problem, though. In the anime, there was one episode, I think it was during the Owl fight, if I remember correctly, when they were adapting at the beginning of the Vessel arc, when Kawaki first shows up, when they get into the fight with Owl. But Boruto uses a water style, or no, sorry, it was during the fight with Naruto, that sort of sparring match they had, where Boruto used a water style jutsu. And a lot of people were wondering, wait, when the hell did Boruto even learn to use this? And in the novel, he does show that he learned how to use it. So people who read the novel know that, oh yeah, Boruto did learn to use water style. And people always use that as a defense. But my problem is, like I said, is that the anime has shown that they adapt the novels into the show. In my opinion, the novels are more in line with the manga, not so much in the anime, because the anime, like I said, they adapt the novels, but there's also times like what I just said with Boruto, where he uses water style and people wonder, when did he learn it? Well, in the novel, it explains that he already knew about it before that whole sparring match with Naruto even happened, because the events of that book, I think it's called Sasuke Shinden, actually takes place, if I remember correctly, before the Vessel arc, if I remember correctly. So yeah, but again, that's why it's always confusing whenever you try to use the novels to sort of explain away certain things, because again, the anime has shown that they don't necessarily follow the novels, because if they did, then Sarada in the anime would have her three Tomoe Sharingan, but she doesn't, even though at this point in the story, when you match it up with the manga and the novel, she already has it, but in the anime she doesn't. So that's why, again, it tends to get a little confusing. And I think the same applies for Naruto, you know, before we got to the Boruto era, because again, it's difficult to say whether something is canon or not. And I can use another example. There's the Sasuke Shinden, another Sasuke Shinden book, where it basically takes place right after chapter 699 of the Naruto manga, where Sasuke leaves in order to go on his sort of atonement thing, which for some reason is still going, which in my opinion is fucking stupid. But in that story got adapted to the anime, and the anime actually made some changes, because at the end of that story they hint at Momoshiki and Kinshiki, and I'm talking about the novel. At the end of the novel, if you get to it, they actually have some lines of dialogue there where they actually hint at other Otsutsukis being out there. Basically, they hint at, like I said, Momoshiki and Kinshiki. But in the anime, when it got adapted into it, they actually completely left that part out. So again, that's why it always gets confusing when you talk about canon and you try to bring in the novels, because the anime sometimes adapts the novels and they leave out certain things. And that's why, again, it gets a little confusing, because like the books have to say one thing, but then the anime says another, and then the manga sometimes contradicts both of them, and it just becomes this whole mess. And I think the same thing could be said for Shisui, because even though, yeah, Shisui, they brought it up at the beginning of the video, you have the novel, you have the anime, and then you have the game, and each of them says something different. The manga actually doesn't say anything at all. All it says is, yeah, Danzo stole his left eye, but we never get to see how, and we don't know anything else about the guy. But in the anime, we get some things which don't really make him look good, but then you've got the novels and the game which make him look better. So again, it's confusing, because it depends on which version you're talking about, and that's, for me, like, that's why I don't think the books are bad. They do tell good stories. It just gets a little difficult, because in my opinion, you should just throw the whole idea of canon out the window, in my opinion. Where Naruto and I brought up Dragon Ball Super, that's why for me you should just throw those out the window, because it's clear that you've got different versions of the same story where each of them are saying their own thing, and you should just completely throw canon out the window, because I don't know, it feels like this story doesn't even know what's canon or not anymore. I mean, there are some things like Kawaki, obviously he's canon because he's there in every single version, characters and certain story beats, but for the most part there's a lot of specific details that get completely lost, because you gotta ask them, okay, well, which version of the story are you talking about? Are you talking about the books? Are you talking about the manga? Are you talking about the anime? Are you talking about even future games, which I'm sure are probably going to include their own things? Who knows? Sorry that I went on that incredibly long tangent. Sorry about that. Let's continue. Where were we? Oh yeah, here we go.
Not like this is like concrete or anything. Minato is just much higher than Shisui, even at his best, is what's trying to be conveyed.
Yeah, because the thing is, you don't have to make any assumptions to put Minato above all of those people. And with Shisui, you have to be like, well, I guess it would make sense because of these other things. But this idea that he's like Hiruzen level is like only supported by all the things that I've mentioned so far, if you kind of agree with the position to begin with, you know?
Yeah, or maybe like Shisui was gonna run into Hiruzen's house while like obviously Hiruzen's off guard, and maybe like genjutsu him, knock him out, and take him out the manor or something like that. There's a tons of ways to interpret that.
He could easily take him out using Kodo Matsukami, but depends on whether or not he'd be able to use it. Because
Shisui has going for him in this
speaking
matchup
of
is Kodo Matsukami. But I think that people really overhyped that jutsu
Maybe a
because
little
of the
bit.
whole you can use it without eye contact thing. Like,
Yes.
obviously that's really good, right? But I don't think that means that he can just think of anyone he wants on the whole planet and then just activate it, and then they'll do whatever he tells them.
Yeah, like there should obviously be a range, right? Like Shisui doesn't have omnipresent genjutsu or something like that.
And on top of that, I don't even feel like it's like you would have to prove that it's just like a blanket AoE thing for me to believe.
Which we
that,
don't
because
have any
I feel like it's
proof
reasonable
of
to
that
assume
being
you'd have
true.
to at least know where the person is.
How do we say it can even like tag Minato before Minato like stabs Shisui in the stomach or something? Because Minato already fights extremely bloodlusted, right? Like Minato doesn't play around in his fights. He literally just tries.
Nope,
to
he
end
just
it as
immediately
quick as
goes for the
possible.
kill. He doesn't
He's
screw
literally
around.
going to like pile drive a kunai through the top of B's skull. He's gonna do the same thing to Raikage. He slammed the Rasengan in Obito's back, then stabbed him in the kidney. Like he doesn't joke around in fights.
It was through the
Shisui
chest,
does
but-
open fights with Kodo Matsukami. Like Shisui literally never does something like that. So if we take
He
the
never
game
does anything.
with
That's the
Danzo,
problem.
Like Shisui fought Danzo the whole time in 3 Tomo. Never even thought to bring out Kodo Matsukami. So like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah, if you assume that the fight happens and like
You guys probably know the drill by now. Gotta, and
both of them are in character, it's really weird.
even
to
though
jump
it's
to, like,
with the filter, I know, and just in case someone asks, because I usually get this question, if you, why do you get in trouble with copyright when they don't? You're gonna have to ask YouTube. I don't know why, but
oh yeah, he just uses Kodo Matsukami. And I think by the time that he realizes it's a necessity, he would just lose. But even if you assume that it's like a bloodlusted Shisui, I just think that Minato's too fast. So like a good example of this sort of thing is like Sasuke fights B and starts losing and doesn't use Genjutsu on B until he gets a very clear opportunity to. Like he gets a good look at B's eye and then pops it, right?
Like he might send the Kodo Matsukami out, and then by the time it gets there, Minato's not even in that spot anymore.
And I mean, the thing about Kodo is like, I still don't even properly understand how it works, right? Like there are a million different ways to interpret it. Cause like Shisui apparently used it on all sorts of people in the war and stuff. And like everybody thinks that it's like so scary, but then it also has like a 10-year cooldown. So like, is that like one of his eyes, or is that what happens when like when you use it when you're not him?
So in the anime anyway, whenever Mifune, or they find out Mifune is under Kodo Matsukame, they literally break him out the way you break anyone out of a genjutsu. They literally just, they place their hands on him, give him chakra, disrupts the flow, and he breaks him out of Kodo Matsukami. In the manga, you may be able to imply Mifune broke himself out because that scene is just not there, but he's clearly not in Kodo Matsukami for the rest of his life. So, so like, what's really implied is that Shisui is just like the boy who could have been, right? Like he's like this crazy prodigy who just didn't.
I
get
think
to
that's
live
what
up
sucks
to
about his
everything he
Shisui
wanted
is
to
that
because of like his unfortunate run-in with Danzo, and
Yeah,
just
like they
due to
s-
being so
like they
powerful,
said,
just, like,
he-
targeted.
Yeah.
But it's not implied he's like of the tier we're talking about at this time.
no.
Maybe full potential, like perfect
It's-
Susanoo Shisui would like
It depends,
slap
yeah.
out Minato, right? Like he just beat him up badly. But the Shisui we got, he's just not up there.
No.
In conclusion, Minato beats him up.
Yeah, Minato wins.
Shisui is strong, definitely. Well, if you give him,
It's-
if you are generous to him, he's definitely stronger than a lot of people treat him. But he's just not on that like Minato legendary like 4th Hokage level.
Yeah, no. He's not.
As always, thanks for watching, everybody, and until next time, take care.
I think we can. That's the end of it. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I mean, it's like they said, we don't. It's difficult to say because, like they said, we don't really have a lot of feats for Shisui to be able to properly determine where he stands, like in terms of the power, the hierarchy in terms of power is what I'm trying to say. Like where he compares to other characters, to make it a bit clearer. So it is a bit difficult to say how he would do against Minato. I mean, we can sort of like make a guess based on some of the examples that they provided. But yeah, I think that's the thing that kind of sucks about Shisui, is that he was touted to be this like Uchiha clan prodigy, but his life just got cut down at such a young age. So, and he never got to, he never got to properly like make it to his full potential, which kind of sucks. I mean, the thing is, you could say the same thing about Itachi. Like he was so talented, but his like things that just happened to him like kind of caused him to basically die at such a young age, because a lot of people forget Itachi was only 21 when he died. He was only 21 when he died, which that is insane. Like that is insane to think about. He went through all of that at such a young age. I mean, I can't even imagine anyone going through any of that when they're like 13 or 14. I mean, these are things that even adults would struggle to deal with in their life, and yet here Itachi is 13, 14 years old, and he's taking it all on, which again, just, I mean, how can you not respect Itachi more after hearing that? And it does kind of suck that we never got to see Shisui like become an adult, like max out his potential and be like the prodigy, or be like that legendary Uchiha clan member that a lot of people kind of expected him to be. But hey, it is what it is. And I do apologize again for going on those tangents in the middle of the video, because for some reason, anytime the whole topic of canon gets brought up, I always I can't really stop myself from talking about it, because there's so many things that like kind of deserve to be talked about when it comes to canon, especially when it comes to Naruto or Dragon Ball, or literally any series we talk about. It doesn't even need to be manga or anime. It's sometimes you've got the comics, you've got movies, you've got books. It depends, because usually with books especially, you've got the book canon, and then you've got the, whether it's a film adaptation or a TV adaptation, you've got that canon, because sometimes they'll change things or leave certain things out. Yeah, it does get one talking about what is or isn't canon. That's why, in my opinion, I think, like I said, you should just not talk about canon at all when it comes to these series, especially Naruto, and because like I said, there's so many different versions. The manga, anime, books, games all say different things, and just confuses people. So best to just leave it alone, in my opinion. If you guys disagree, that's fine. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Remember to leave a like, share the video, please subscribe, guys, if you haven't. We are this close to 1,000, and make sure to ring the bell for notifications, and let me know, like I said, your thoughts in the comment section down below. And remember to check the description for links to this video as well as Swag's channel. Make sure you head on over there, subscribe, and don't just do it for Swag Kage, do it for every content creator we watch here on this channel. Make sure to go support them by subscribing to them and watching their videos and commenting. Basically everything the YouTube algorithm loves from channels. With that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed the video, and bye for now.